Welcome to Season 4 of the Knack 4 Business Podcast.
Today's show is brought to you by our K4B Profit Snapshot. Here's one question worth sitting with. If you stepped away from your business for 30 days, would it grow or contract? That answer tells you a lot about where you really stand. Try the free 5-minute snapshot. It measures process, profit, and personal freedom. Link is in the show notes.
Question to the listener. Why does your business keep growing, but you still feel overwhelmed and slightly out of sync? That's what our guest will unpack in this episode. He'll speak about how high-performing founders drift into high-pressure-based growth, how small tolerated misalignments quietly drain energy, and why calm alignment, not more effort, creates sustainable success. He'll break down the shift from pushing harder to leading from clarity, using nervous system awareness, lean thinking, and transformational coaching to help entrepreneurs scale without losing themselves in the process. If you built momentum but just don't feel peaceful about it, this conversation is for you. Our guest today is Tom Graham from Frame of Mind. He is the founder of said company, and he is a transformational coach and a systems thinker who helps high-capacity entrepreneurs shift from overwhelm and perfectionism into calm, clear, aligned action. After undergoing a life-altering lung transplant, Tom rebuilt his leadership philosophy from the inside out. Today, he blends nervous system awareness, lean thinking, and transformational coaching to help business owners scale without sacrificing connection, integrity, or peace of mind. His core belief is simple, yet powerful. Be determines the quality of do. Tom teaches that sustainable growth doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from aligning who you are with what you build. Tom, it's an absolute pleasure to having you coming back here. I know you were in season 1, that seems like years and years ago, from episode 80. And so welcome back, sir. It's an absolute pleasure having you here. Do you have a favorite quote or saying you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I'm delighted to be here. The favorite quote I'd go with is what you shared earlier, and that being determines your doing or your action. And so it's when, just unpacking that just a little bit, when we get to be and we're in alignment, that creates a space for taking aligned action, and aligned action is efficient.
And you're calm and not panicked.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, any individual person can make good decisions while not under stress. Logic will prevail if that's what you built into your system. So it's that out of alignment where the mind is taken over by the biology and opportunities go away. Tunnel vision comes in. And it's like a tendency is to fixate on one thing, whereas there might be other opportunities if that tunnel vision wasn't there.
So high performers.
Yeah.
They often, feeling out of tune, which is interesting because if you're a high performer, that means you're hitting success. It's almost like your endorphins are going, yes, did it well. Yes, did it well. Yes, did it well. But there's the misalignment. What's causing that?
So let's take a step back just a little bit. That high performance, you get into that unconscious competence, and that's where the drift can happen if you don't check in. And so that's the essence of it. And it's that out of tune. It's that drift from normal. It's about that, out of tune, that small misalignment.
So how does that impact the business then? When you're having that misalignment, is it like the 1 degree off at 4 feet isn't as big as 1,000 miles later?
Well, and if you're 1 degree off and it's 1 degree off and 1 degree off and a 1 degree off, pretty soon it's more than 1 degree off at 4 miles or 4 kilometers or whatever, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Or you've done a 180, in which case you're going back where you started from ever so slowly. So do people resist this process? Do they resist getting that realignment going, hang on? Is that, do you have any pushback on that?
It's not so much pushback as it's a lack of awareness. And so it's that discernment, that ability to see it, that really empowers people to, when I can see it and I can know it's off, then I can move in the right direction.
So all this pressure happening, what are the outcomes that are adverse for the person or adverse for the people around them or their own systems?
Well, overthinking, going into that analysis loop, analysis by paralysis. Just this, the stakes are too high. I can't screw up. Like I really gotta, an example of that for me is if I screw up my medicine, it could be my life.
That would, you don't want to be that 1 degree off, a month down the pipe. No, I guess not.
For sure.
So when you're working with people though, like what are the clues or cues they should be paying attention to? Like when they realize something's off a little bit, but they're not responding to it or correcting it or tweaking it, or maybe that's not even the right answer, is tweaking it as opposed to stepping back and figuring out if I'm drifting, why am I drifting? And then if I'm drifting, should I be drifting? And is my end goal not straight ahead, but to the right or to the left, as the case may be?
Yeah. And that's kind of I was talking to somebody and she was in the space of, it feels like my corporate job is stealing my soul. And so that's the extreme of how far it can get. And it's by taking the moments, how would you see it? So you could see it by, how well are you sleeping at night? What wakes you up? Does it preoccupy your thoughts all the time? Those are some questions that a person can ask. And if the situation, if you never get rest, that's when the mind squirrels
start overworking it. So is it a matter of realigning back to the goal, the intended target, or is it a matter of the perception of where you should be ending up? If I look at, let's say, the person you're talking about going, my soul is being sucked out of my corporate life. Is there a solution that doesn't involve that person having to leave the corporate life? Where they kind of going, is sort of like, if you look at the number 9 one way, but you walk around the room or walk around it, if it's sitting on the floor, it looks like a number 6, right? Is that kind of a perception play that a person might have as an opportunity without having to literally go, I got to hit the eject button.
Right. So it's about finding that perspective, and merely asking a question can shift someone's perspective. And so it's that, remember how I talked about the tunnel vision?
Mm-hmm.
That's the perspective that a person gets locked on. And then it's being able to see a different perspective and see new opportunities to move forward. As far as I had a good thought there and it just escaped me. I'll let you ask the questions.
Okay. So when you're in the squirrel cage, I think that's where you're going with that last one. This all kind of comes back to the nervous system. Like, it's one thing I want to do this, but your body's going along with you, right? It's part of the journey. And we're responsive to our environment, whether it's food, sleep, so good sleep hygiene, exercise hygiene, et cetera. Hygiene, in fact, and overall, right? If you don't brush your teeth, no one will want to be near you. But how does the nervous system play into this overall picture? Because it's inside you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so is it the stresses? Is it the extra hormones, the cortisols, pick your hormone of choice that's going to, make you wind you up or wind you down, how does the nervous system play into this whole process? And not only how does it play in, but how do you manage that then?
Yeah. So part of it is the success that got you there is what can bake in stress that's just in the baseline. And it's when that stress gets up over a limit that it turns into primal, where it's just reactionary. And so by being able to have, 1, awareness that it's happening, 2, elements to change the somatic experience, where it's a person can find in their body where the stress comes. Some people it comes in their throat, some people it comes in their chest, and it's like, wow. And then once they get that, then it's like, okay, so that's going on. And then in terms of differentiating that, part of it is to get into a calmer state and look for the clear action, what is clear forward, because once the system is detuned or desensitized, then then the gross reality check, is my ladder up against the right wall?
That could be pretty important. We were mentioning earlier about lean thinking. I think we should start off before we start getting into lean thinking. What is the construct about lean? Other than, I wish I were leaner myself, but I'm not. Age does that to you. But that's not what lean's all about. What's lean about?
For me, lean is about minimizing waste. And the lean thought has 8 different forms of waste. And I actually mapped that onto different forms of emotional waste. And so I have, there's waiting, is the mind thrashing and that kind of thing. So there's different segments of where to look for it. In a sense, lean is doing more with less, and that's the innovating productivity. And the innovating productivity, the aim of that is more just become calm and enjoy life on the journey.
So for founders, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to apologize for getting a little bit sideways, but it seemed like it fit into the framework.
Yeah, well, I'm good. I know it's good. So the lean helps you support the emotional clarity then. And so the lean is about less waste. How does it get you there? Like what should if I'm a stakeholder, right? Or or the solopreneur, what should I be doing then? Like, do I tip my body a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, forward or backward? Like what is how do I identify it and then work it to improve being lean without wasting?
Yeah. And sometimes the metaphor of leaning kind of got me going there. It was a good one.
I try.
Yeah. I acknowledge you for that. Lean in the metaphor of, so I go back to discernment, the measurement system. So if you go into pure statistics or pure lean technology, it's, can you measure it? And then if you can measure it, then you can move it. If you can move it, then you can control it. And so part of it is knowing what is and isn't your response. And what I mean specifically is I might be going after a project and I'm chasing it, and chasing is a funny word, but I have it all mapped out, and then I compress the schedule and push through on the critical path. And speaking to the person's state, it's about what's the price I have to pay to get there. And that's the piece. And so it's like knowing, the art of war. Is it?
Sun Tzu.
Yeah. Know yourself, know what you need to delegate, what resources you can pull in that concept. I created 8 forms of waste and I'll mapped them all on and created questions and how to ask that. And one of the biggest problems that there is having people, when I said know yourself, sometimes people are afraid of measuring themselves. They won't put themselves up to the stick. Like they won't go into the Olympics because they don't want to be measured.
So when they're doing the measurement, it's of themselves to themselves, not to an outside judge.
100%. And so that is the kernel. That is the point of flipping that really makes a difference, because it's the principle is about, is it I'm better than somebody else? That's competition. It's more like it's internal excellence. And that internal excellence, am I better than I was the day before? And it's me against myself, so to speak. And if a person is actually actuated, they're at peace with, I am perfect just as I am. I'm perfect just as I'm not. And I'm striving for excellence. So it's not that there's a status quo and I'm coasting, keep improving and be at peace with it, because right here, right now, I'm good.
When you're working with people, who are the people you want to work with that would benefit from this process of getting? Is it, the 20-something? Is it the 40-something? Is it the corporate person? Is it the solopreneur? Who do you normally see as your typical clients coming to you going, oh my gosh, I'm age is taking me, and I'm going, I am in the wrong spot. I got to find me my homes. I got to find me my roots again. Who's your best client?
Yeah, it's the woman who has achieved a bunch, has high skills, but then has to carry too much. Like she's the linchpin. If she doesn't do it, it's not going to get done. If she can't outsource because it's that trust issue. So I can't rest until the end of the day when I got my list done. And generally they're business owners, somebody who has accountability, somebody who has carrying the weight on their shoulders. And if they don't carry it, something's going to drop. And so they've been carrying their load for so long that they can't breathe. It's just chronic. I've been grinding. And then strange things happen when you go into that grind mode in an automatic kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are like decisions are made and they have no memory of.
Wow.
And so what happens there is they're like, oh, shoot. Yeah, I'm sure I did that. And yes, I can be accountable for it. And it could have gone really bad.
So when you have a client that comes on your doorstep and they say, "Hi, Tom, help me. You got me through here. Get me realigned." What does the life cycle of that whole process take? Is it is it one and done in a day? Is it one and done in a month? Dependent on the person, and does it need maintenance, or how does it flow?
They come in and then there is a 3-hour intensive. Intensive is a funny word, but it's a calm reset where they can learn what calm feels like. And so by having those 2 days and they establish the new normal of what calm is, most people are good to go. And then they need maintenance, for up to three months. And then my intention is not to have chronic customers, believe it or not. I'd rather have them set up. It's like riding a bike, somebody might need help getting started and you're holding up the seat. Remember doing that?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're riding a bike and then
They're gone.
don't see them for a while.
You mentioned finding that calm. Can you define what that calm is? Like, what is a calm? A calm sea is the water's not rippling. A calm wind is you don't feel even a slightest breeze, if there is a breeze. What is a calm for a person, though? What does that look like or feel like, actually?
Yeah, it feels like that when you were a kid and things are good. It's that kind of peace where it's like, I don't have a worry. And then by being in that state, for me, I'll describe it, I'll create it. That calm is like being in a field, laying in the field with your dog by your side, and you look up and you look at the clouds and then you fall asleep and then wake up and there's your dog. And
It almost sounds like meditation.
yeah. You can get there through meditation, but it's how everybody has their own past history with calm. And then stuff in the world took them away from that state, that awareness. And so I say it's all within already. It's knocking the mud off.
Okay.
Because the gold is within.
So you're working with individuals. And, an individual can have a team around them. So although they may need to find that center calm component, how does this affect the team? Does this stuff then later on ripple out from the source, the person being the source, your client, and ripple out to those around them?
Yes. And yes, we each impact the people around us. So naturally, the leader is going to impact the rest of the group, and the rest of the group can incorporate these same tools. They can be taught. It's a mindset.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
What are the tools that you use to help to deliver the course? Is it just a conversation, or is there more to it?
Yeah. I cut my teeth as an engineer. And so through all that, I would create measurement systems. And what I've learned is I create way more measurement systems than people are comfortable with. And so, I've got a lot of different tools that I've built, measurement tools. And generally, it's a short quiz. And then that starts in on the conversation. Have you ever done ISO auditing, 9001, that kind of thing?
I've heard about it, and in my previous career, we had something else because the healthcare institutions are done differently. There's an accreditation process. Basically, you got to have a checklist. Do you have this? Do you have this SOP? Standard operating procedure. Do you have this? Do you have your safety kit? It goes everything from supply chain, everything about your business, so that your business is resilient. Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah. And so when you're an auditor, you can start by asking questions. And there's probably about, for a given, let's just take it backwards, where there's something, where there's a nugget, a finding, there's five roughly 5 different ways in to find that finding. And so it's like, which part of the whole documentation do you start with? Generally, it could come back to that finding. And so it's like starting off, people's habits are consistent. And so where it shows up in a day generally shows up over time. And so it's those patterns that come out in speech. I don't know if pleasure is the right word. I pick up on patterns and I hear things that people are saying and I check in and say, hey, is this really what you mean? And inside of that, a lot is revealed in the choices of words we use. And my theory is it comes from the premise that the words we choose create the world we're living in, to the point of, if I use should, could, all those that are self-judgment, I have a negative bias. And it's that negative bias that sets my point of view kind of small, and I don't get the opportunity to see all the other opportunities that are out there. And it's natural. I mean, when I'm super stressed and if I get test results back and things aren't okay, it's like action. And the right thing is to wait, get the rest of the data.
That must be a hard thing to go, you see something coming up that looks like a red flag and it's going that, and there might be more to the story because you haven't waited. So I guess this kind of feeds in then your entire transplant, your entire medical process that you've gone through, right?
Yeah.
Has shifted your leadership view and processes then.
Yeah. Maybe deepened it.
Yeah. Because it's it cuts to the core, right? It's not like like you said, if you skip your meds, not so good, and it could be a hard stop, and depending on how you feel about the afterlife, we tend not to all want to get there fast. So I've been told, typically.
Yeah. And, the place I was in between diagnosis and actually going for a qualification for a transplant, I talked to hospice, and that was a legitimate conversation. And so when you start talking about that, I don't know how to say it. It's not an existential crisis, but definitely I've come to the grips of what do I want out of life and what am I doing? And that alignment becomes, I'd say, fairly clear. And so I'm out to empower people.
I could see that, when something is standing up next to you and it goes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Knocking on heaven's door, so to speak, right? And do you find that people understand that when you take them through the process, you're obviously relaying your story. Do you find that they come to grips then that they understand the import of why they should be acting at reducing that stress level, to have that calmness, being centered, why that's important for them? Even if, if the knock on the door is coming for tomorrow, right? Because I haven't met an immortal yet. Knock on wood, because then there'd be a whole bunch of other questions. What up with that?
Yeah.
So we're not, and so we all eventually have to face certain moments, right? Does that calmness then just brings it in and allow us to go forward with good grace?
I was gonna there's a little something that's in there that's an implied assumption, and generally I don't overtly say, hey, life is short.
Yeah.
Have you done your will?
I'm not talking about, by the way, set things up for the inevitable. I'm talking about, because what I'm taking from what you provided people is, this is how I manage, these are the undulations, here are the stress points, right? And so if you're kind of on alignment where you want to be and what you want to do, you'll act accordingly and calmly and with foresight with the next series of logical steps. Sometimes some people have to be brought to the precipice and they're not going over.
Yeah.
So I'm not implying, get your paperwork in alignment, but it's just realizing that, how you deal with that stress today, whether it's minor, a delivery hasn't shown up versus, my gosh, someone had a a near fatal accident, a near miss event, right? An adverse event. Is it that composure then that is coming in that, so you can manage the stress of the moment so it doesn't wear you in or wear you down, I should say.
Yeah. So if I heard right, there was about 3 questions in there.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. You're welcome.
Yeah. So the first one is, each person has an individual answer to the system. It's a personal alignment. And so it's not that I know the answer in as much as I know what resonance feels like. Like if we're having a conversation and you're telling me about something and you tell me about your favorite thing, you tell me about what you don't like, it's very clear to feel the difference. And a lot of times people can't tell the difference between themselves, within themselves. So I'm a mirror. So I reflect back. And so I don't know the answer for each individual. I know the process, and the process is all within.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make it. I didn't wanted to make it a heavy subject. I just thought, if there's a heavy decision to make, like, do I quit? Do I start a new business, right? And this is not something I've done.
And it's a state check. And I apologize for going over you, but there's a state check. And so the first question is, are you upset? So if the person's reacting emotionally and they're just charged on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is they're plain no problem, and 10 is, I can't sleep. I can't even eat my favorite ice cream. Don't make a decision when you're a 10. Get down to that 1 where it's no problem, because then it's like rational thinking. And then so I said 3. So 1 is upset, 1 is empowered or disempowered. And so that's where the languaging comes in. Empowered is about, the words that a person uses. And then the third one is completion. Are they carrying something from their past? Is it complete? Or do they have to get this issue resolved? Because if they make a decision from that past, like I'm a certain way or this is a certain thing, that clouds the judgment going forward. It's that filter. And so that's how bad decisions get made.
So I guess at the end of the day, chaos is the thing to avoid, and the chaos inside your headspace. Because chaos is outside, and chaos by definition means it's an unrecognized pattern, if I'm correct. So you're trying to reduce that internal chaos in yourself then.
Yeah. In addition, how much it's the environment that you live in, what food, what exercise, what social media do you take in, and actually, taking the weeds out of the garden. What can you control? What can't you control? And so if you can't control it and it's a weed, don't take it.
So you have something called the Daily Clarity Map. What's that all about? You have something that's a free resource for the folks listening in on the Act for Business podcast.
Yeah, it's a 3-step thing, and it's about getting to calm. And I can give it to you right here. It's breathe, calm down, and then just sit with the quiet and what's one achievable action that you can take today, singularly. Like once you get into that calm space, that's where the heart-brain coherence comes in. And then what is aligned with that? It feels right. And so that's the essence of it. And when action's taken into that direction, there is a sense of calm that comes in. It's like, hey, I'm taking care of this. I'm scheduling this so I can get my tested tomorrow or whatever it is.
So Tom, if someone is listening to this podcast and they're going, I need a piece of Tom's wisdom, how do they find said Tom?
Oh, there's multiple ways. Yeah. Depends on how they want to consume. I have podcasts or, audio on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, all of them.
What's it called?
It's called Innovative Productivity. Yeah. And I have a YouTube Being Heard with Tom Graham and Facebook group, which is Ripple Makers, which is ironic about you say the calm had no ripples. And I was like, well, yes and no. So what if you could actually cause ripples that eventually make calm? Kind of like noise cancellation.
Yep.
So I assert when everybody's in their aligned or highest self and they're leaning into what their gift is, they create miracles for others. I saw this in spades through my transplant journey, and people just kept showing up and leaning in. And I was just like, I can't believe how lucky I am. And it's just like, I went to the Mayo Clinic and they were leaning in, and person after person, everybody, the nurses at night even, they would listen to my concerns and then advocate for me in doctor speak, because I couldn't say it in doctor speak. So that's what I've seen. So this is me leaning into my gift. I have a gift of listening. I have a gift of, I suppose, patience, and I'm analytical. And yeah, just as an aside, I'm building my brand as empowerment, ethical, and trust. That's what I want to be known as. And so that's my true north for what I'm up to.
Tom Graham, I want to say thank you to our Knack for Business listeners. I want to say thank you for your time. Tom helps those high-capacity entrepreneurs that are looking for that success, not just outside, but inside themselves too. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you're getting pulled in different directions, you kind of do things are going somewhat well, but not right. In other words, you're not sleeping well and so forth. Reach out to Tom. He's got some inherent wisdom that he can share. He'll listen and he'll guide.
Everything you heard today is for educational purposes only. It's not professional advice. Before you act on anything, talk to a certified expert in your area. Your accountant, your lawyer, someone who knows your situation. We share perspectives. You make the decisions. Want more? Head over to blog.knack4business.com, packed with practical episodes on AI, marketing, leadership, and growth. No fluff, just the good stuff. Subscribe while you're there. Until next time, keep building.